How you going? Someone commented on a video I put up of me playing this Ovation guitar of mine. This is a 2010 collector series with the Adirondack spruce top. Bloody beautiful guitar. Ducks nuts. But yeah, the question was, how'd you go about fitting the Tonewood amp on the back of an Ovation, being as it's a rounded back guitar? Like, obviously the Tonewood amp likes a nice flat surface to sit on, and the only real flat surface on the back of an Ovation, doesn't matter what sort of Ovation it is, whether it's the contour back like this one, but there you go, that inspection hole cover right there to get to your truss rod and whatnot. Basically, I'm going to have to do this one-handed, and it is a bit tricky for a reason that I'll explain in a minute. There we go, we're getting there, here we go. That's not too bad. Right. So, that's what we're dealing with. The X-brace just sits quite happily in between the prongs of the inspection hole cover. Just sticks on with the little sticky pads. The only difference, or the only change I had to make, was the screw to actually crank down on the legs that push onto this block of foam to actually crank these legs down. That screw that originally came with the guitar was too long. It's a 1032 screw in good old Imperial, and being an American-made guitar, that is. So the bottom of the screw was actually bottoming out on the underside of that part of the X-brace, and I'd cranked it down so much, and then screw can't turn anymore, and the prongs weren't actually cranked down to the best of their ability. So therefore, it was still, I mean, it was tight, but it was still sliding around. And the Tonewood amp's magnets are pretty bloody strong, so you definitely notice the difference, especially when trying to pull the thing off. You definitely notice, because you could feel the inspection hole cover slide. And the only other problem with that being is you want to have a nice tight seal on there. Ideally, the Tonewood amp just sits on a nice solid back guitar, but you know, this is what we're doing here. So you get a shorter screw, and you can crank down that you can crank down this cover as much as you like. Get a nice good tight seal on there, and at least that way, when the edges of this inspection hole cover are sitting in your little beveled edge there, there's no vibrations or any weird stuff like that. Because Tonewood amp, I've noticed, I don't know if it's just my guitars, I don't know, like, it's finicky. It's very easy to overdrive, it's very easy to clip, and you get weird buzzing and warbling sort of sounds depending on where you put it. Even on a solid back, like a solid back wood guitar sort of thing, I get the same. You just got to shuffle it around a little bit, maybe a little bit here, a bit up there, a bit down there, like on a solid back guitar I'm talking about. But basically, with the inspection hole cover, I have to try and do this as gently as I can because it'll snap. There you go. That's pretty much where she sits happy. And if you're looking, nice. Okay. Very hard to see. But yeah, your little microphone, there it is, little microphone-y squishy thing that does all the magic, has got a nice solid pressed up against there. So as long as your inspection hole cover is pulled up tight against the rest of the body of the guitar, you're not going to have any problems. However, in saying that, the pickups on this guitar, I just think pickups are a bit hot. So I dialed the Tonewood amp master gain down to about 5, which is the lowest it can go. But then you've still got the headroom to play with the volume and gain of each patch from then on in. So, I mean, you're not, even though you're dialing the master gain down to pretty much as low as it can go, you think, well, it's going to be like a washed out sort of sound. Where's the depth of the chorus or whatever? All that's there. You turn your chorus depth up to 25 and it's still going to sound like a flat out chorus. So it doesn't take away from the effects by dialing down the master gain. The only thing you're doing is preventing it from clipping. So do that. And if I can try and do this one-handed, there we go. The only thing is, because you've got all this taking up room where those prongs are, and this is what I was saying, is a hard time getting it off before. When you try and get the prongs back in there, or the legs, I should say, whatever, it's not as simple as just, I get that one in, slide that one there, slide that one that way, and then, yeah, you're good to go. There's going to be a point where you might get 1 or 2 legs in. Usually try and start by getting 2 legs in. This is extremely hard to do one-handed. But you might have to get your fingers in here and, fiddle around and pop one in there. And there's a bit of, shall we say, coaxing going on that you might need to do. This is too hard to do one hand. I can't even bother. But yeah, basically I would try and get two legs in to start. It's easy enough to slide 2 legs in, and then the other 2, what you're then forced with are they're going to be like about there, and you're going to have to try and just sort of pop them in, and you'll see you just have to pop them in there, and that's enough. That's all right. I mean, you're not gonna break this stuff by doing it. So it's just a tiny little smidgen that you're just going to have to force in on the other 2 legs. If you can get 2 in first to start, force the other 2 in after. Swivel it around, because it does have a, after years of playing it, it does have a it's not entirely flat. It's got a bit of a curve to it somewhere. So you find its happy spot where it wants to sit, and then crank it down and, yeah. Robert's your father's brother. Hope that helps.